Assignment number 5, last assignment for this semester. Due date finals week. It's scheduled on the schedule for our class meeting time. Last painting in any medium, but preferably what you've already been doing so far this semester. Let's try to get better at what we've been practicing all semester. And I'm going to give you 2 different directions you can pursue in this final painting. Your choice between muse, M-U-S-E, and music. Now, both I think need some explanations in terms of possibilities, so let's get started with that. So here's some examples from art history. Here's a painting by Barbas, and it is a portrait of Franz Liszt. Liszt was a very famous composer and musician, and his work at the time was considered very much popular. He had a huge audience, female followers, as well as general public followers. He was so popular in his time. The term was coined to describe the popularity of his music. Listomania was a term that was thrown around quite a bit at the height of his career. In this case, it's a muse and its music together. So that at the time this was painted, as at the height of Liszt's fame, and he happened to be a musician as well. So a few other examples of that. Here's a Delacroix portrait of Chopin. Again, Chopin very popular in France, but later in global popularity as well. But this is Delacroix. Again, the muse and music were both addressed in this one portrait. This one's about music, so Saint Cecilia with the Angel by Saraceni, and it's a portrait of two characters from illustrating a story, and the story's about music and the I guess the ability of music to stir sort of heavenly bodies and thoughts. Another portrait, this one of Mozart by Kraft, and this is a straight up portrait of the composer. Again, muse and music both addressed here in this one painting. Another muse and music one. This is a portrait of Mussorgsky by Rapin, and again, just a straight up portrait, but also is the muse of the subject matter too. This is Warhol doing Beethoven. So Beethoven's music is scored there over top. So literally taking the notation, the musical notations of Beethoven, and overlaying that over a portrait of Beethoven that's got the sort of the style of Warhol going on in the portrait. His classic silk screening of an image, and then over top of that, a drawing and layering of color and of content on top. Very much a Warhol technique. Another Warhol. This is not about music. This is about political figure, Vladimir Lenin. So it's a portrait of Lenin. So the muse here is Lenin and Lenin's inspiration and influence on the artist. This is a portrait of a young woman, a young cellist by Decab. And so it's a portrait of someone playing an instrument, in this case a six-string guitar. This is Leger, and it's a band playing music. And the theme here of the three musicians by Leger is music. Things that maybe go along with music also could be possible and plausible here. This is a Matisse painting called the Shrouded, the dance, sometimes referred to as the dance. The large canvas painted with oils is depicting five nude forms in holding hands in a circle in a dance. You can't dance without music. I guess you could dance without music, but that's fine. Another Matisse. This one, again, kind of the theme here is music, but specifically Mozart music. This is Vasily Kandinsky, composition number 7, and Kandinsky is well known for the modernist separation between representation and abstraction. It became known later in his life and posthumously that he had I think some people may call it a disorder, but I'd say it's just another way of senses, of the bodily senses working in unique and different ways. This is kind of the term that describes what Kandinsky was reacting to is this idea that when sounds are heard, when music is played and one hears the music, one has these sort of visual I call them illusions, but visual experiences that relate to the seeing of shapes and colors when different types of music are being experienced by the individual. So this is known as synesthesia, and it turns out that many artists have had this phenomenon going on in their sensory perceptions. So for Kandinsky, it was when listening to the various music performances, he would have these visual experiences of color and shapes, and so he's kind of trying to paint those experiences that he's having as a synesthist, and another example of that here, Kandinsky. Another artist that had the signs of that was an American painter by the name of Stanton McDonald Wright. McDonald Wright also experienced that, but his abstraction came out of more of a way of seeing, trying to, instead of going towards abstraction, having a vein of representation in his work, and you can see that in a lot of Wright's paintings. You'll pick up hints of objects and shapes within the composition. So this is the title of this piece. I have it up there. But the title does allude to usually alludes to the composition's core inspiration. These are dancers in the field. Georgia O'Keeffe, and this would be more of a muse example. So Keith liked to do these extreme close-ups of things, and they were oftentimes organic and natural, and then she would heighten them with her treatment of color, and that would be a sort of seen as abstraction, but more in a scientific term of an abstract. And then also she kind of related it back to her experiences as a woman in the art world, and connections to her feminist views, and being female and telling the story of her experiences in the world. Yeah, so that's O'Keeffe, Georgia O'Keeffe. Here's a graphic designer. I found this artist on DeviantArt. You can go there and see more of their work. Wrong Code is the artist's working title that they use, that they identify with. And this one, the art of music, as you can see in the illustration, they are more expressive, but also representational and inventive in ways that alluded to a certain theme. This theme, obviously, music, but yeah, very interesting conceptual approaches to the design aesthetic. This is all done with Illustrator and Photoshop. This is the study for the finished painting by Chagall, and he portrays all these various mythological creatures interacting and with one another, sort of a celestial type of orchestra. But like I said, it was this was the canvas that was painted, and then the commission was for this large synagogue that was a backdrop for a multi-piece painting. So you can see how it's been kind of broken up and installed in this interior space. Much larger than the original sketch that we saw earlier. There's a Picasso, three musicians, and then music being the I like showing Motherwell's work. This is Robert Motherwell, large oil paintings, and they were very much inspired by music and music notation. Motherwell. This gives you a sense of scale for Motherwell's creations. This is Franz Klein. Rhythm and Tone is the title of this piece. So again, abstraction is the medium. The medium here, and the media is oil on canvas. This is more muse. This is Robert Rauschenberg's Bed. I did several iterations of this one. His muse was usually found objects, so he would utilize the stuff that he found all around him and paint and construct them. These were called, I like to refer to these as combines. They were very much seemingly flat, but when you see them in person, you see the depth and the layering that's going on in the materials. Another Rauschenberg. That one from that bed series. Same series. A few more types of media applied to the beds. Usually they're like shaped rectangular stretchers with literally stretching instead of canvas quilts and sheets and pillows around the stretchers. Just a different Rauschenberg with some other muses. Contemporary issues were muses for him as well, lifting stuff straight out of the publications at the time. More of a contemporary Rauschenberg. There's the inspiration there. This is Jasper Johns, and in this vein, similar to the pop artist we just discussed with Rauschenberg, he's being inspired by stuff all around him, and he's also doing casts of his body parts up here and these little leeches in the chart painting in the center. So his muses were readily available, copyright-free stuff that you could find around him, reproducing that. In this case, stencils in the 0 through 9. There's 4 different paintings of John's work from 4 different eras of his oeuvre, his work, life's work. More stencil paintings. I like using oil on canvas, but I also use some caustic as well. Here the Lichtenstein's muse is the comic strip. This is Philip Guston. Guston was a abstract expressionist turned pop artist and painter and printmaker. Part of the New York School and worked closely alongside of people like Pollock and de Kooning, but later broke away from that school, that New York School of abstraction, and joined with some of the pop artists at the time. So some of the ones I'm showing you here are kind of from that later period. Very much muses that Guston acquired both through his own experiences in the world and what issues were going on at the time. Usually largely political. And that led me into thinking about the paintings by Leon Golub, who was a Chicago artist and very much interested in and affected by contemporary political issues, and a lot of his paintings had to do with illustrating and front cover news stories of the time. So this is the 50s and 60s, times in the United States of a lot of changes and upheavals. So you'll see a lot of times his paintings will have illustrations and references to particular, let's say, trials and tribulations of the times, like the pigs invasion, the unrest in the South, with discrimination and prejudice and I guess white privilege, long before that term was ever coined. On the closer to our own time period, a little bit more into the 70s and 80s, and the artists who sort of adopt some of the techniques from their history. Here, the the German expressionists were inspirational for Epsom Kiefer and his paintings. These large multimedia pieces that he presented were largely tapping into not only the painterly history of his culture, but also the history of his culture. So sometimes we have to deal with the figures inside of Germany throughout history, telling a bit of a convoluted story of how we got where we are, sort of thing. This painting title up here in German, but also your way of worldly wisdom, thinking about the ironies between some of the philosophers and thinkers of the German culture and history and Nazism and overall dictatorship that eventually came to power there through the years. Sometimes they're referential of interior spaces that are well known to be. Sometimes people look at these and say these are kind of neoclassical, but they're most specifically about the architecture that the Third Reich adopted in the construction of their buildings and sort of tipping their hat towards Greek and Roman empires. Sometimes it's about just World War II in general. He used lots of interesting materials in his paintings. This one was really impressive. It's made out of lead, lead wrapped around structures, and then yeah, pretty cool. Sometimes hay, like raw materials, and dirt and earth and tar and shellac to create these very tactile surfaces. So this is David Sally, and back to the U.S. Sally was known as a pop artist, but definitely was inspired by some of the tendencies of pop artists, using multimedia, silkscreen, painting, inks on canvas, and influences came from popular culture and large-scale figurative paintings. This is Philip Tapp. Philip was patterning and layering and object silk screening and painting. Created these intricate patterns, sometimes inspired by nature, sometimes by other cultures. This one has a lot of Islamic motifs going on inside of it. This one was actually a inspiration from a recreation of a Matisse painting. Like John's would appropriate stuff from this copyright free. Same sort of neo-expressionists as Kiefer. This one is Sigmar Polk, another German painter, very much at the same time period as Kiefer, but kind of more in a pop art kind of way. And like Rauschenberg, would silkscreen, stencil, spray paint on all sorts of things. Some of this is like the type of blankets you might find in packaging, louvers, quilts. Sometimes it's materials that are unaccustomedly used in painting. This is it's a two-panel piece with stretched vellum. It's then painted on top of. It's a little easier to see in some of these other ones where you can actually see through the vellum, the scrim to the substrate structure behind it. It's a little hard to see here, but there you can see there's a center support going down this way, two vertical. These are very, very, very large. So that's a massive amount. So kind of silk screening and painting on that very translucent material is a technique that you like to use. Here's an installation of this piece coming up next. I think from afar you can kind of see the substrate. You can see it back there, how you can see through the canvas surface at this almost like a latex material. Kind of looks like you can see through it, but it's vellum, so it's fairly impermeable to liquids and materials that are liquid-like. But you could see through it visually. It's a very translucent material. These are beautiful, beautiful installations. I pulled a few from this book that was published back in the 90s. It was about a show that came to, I saw it at the Brooklyn Museum, but it traveled around the U.S. and it caused a lot of controversy. This Chris O'Feely pieces were particularly thought-provoking. They were painting. This one's a painting of the Virgin Mary, but it's done in a very let's say primitive style, kind of maybe referring to, let's say, the types of art that you might find within cultures like the Yoruba in East Africa, and it's he's a British citizen. His roots are in Senegal, and so he has a direct tie to African culture in that specific region. He would take actual elephant turds and that were dried out, and he would stand his paintings on top of the turds. So that's how they were presented. It's easier to see in this one right here. You see two big turds on there. The subtlety behind it, not so subtle. And then the connection between contemporary culture and historical culture that he experienced in his youth in Senegal. This is Marcus Harvey, and the muses here were the centerfolds that he found in his father's drawers as growing up. In this one, Damien Hirst's muse was a series of paintings that he did with stars. This was a painting that he produced with the help of this one in particular was David Bowie. So he kind of created these sort of large round canvases, and then had other stars from other media that he made connections with. And that's Hirst on the left, and that's David Bowie on the right. But the technique was almost like a very pop art sort of way of making these sort of splash paintings. Came out in the 70s. I remember as a kid, it was a toy you could buy. It came with all these squirt bottles and a rotating sort of Lazy Susan kind of thing that had an electric motor on it. You could go slower or faster, and then as you squirt the paint onto the surface, it would the centrifugal force of the spinning would cause these marks to be made. You can see these sort of like splashy kind of marks that come out from the center, and that's due to it being. You can't see it here, but it's on a table that spins with a little motor on it. This is Fiona Ray, abstraction, but very much inspired by contemporary stuff. This is Jenny Saville. These are all these artists were part of that show called Sensation. Jenny's muses are battered women. She would interview and photograph women who were in these battered women's shelters, and then later worked with other women about images that were, let's say, about their own self-loathing and their own self-observations. This is an artist from the 70s working in acrylic by the name of Adame, and it kind of like on the side of like vector art and graphic design, but it was very much predates any of that type of technology, but very heavy line work and color usage. It was largely unreceived at the time, but some stuff it's really beautiful to see in person. These are large scale. Most people refer to them as paintings, but I think of them as maybe more painted sculpture. This is Elizabeth Murray, and she was an American painter. She passed away in the 2000s, but her large scale paintings gives you an idea of scale. Lisa there in the middle ground. Her muses were just ordinary, everyday household objects that she kind of abstracted and created these dimensional shapes. Super impressive. Love this work. Give you an idea of some of the images she did. This is Soto, Jeff Soto, working kind of more conceptually with the pop art world, but on the pop side of generating his own types of cartoon characters, and working on multi-canvas shaped canvases. Here's some of the sketches. There's a bunch of this stuff from the studio laid out. So some of these are reclaimed artifacts that he paints on, and then creates these assemblages. These are really lovely paintings. Themes of robots and cartoonish kind of characters. He did skate decks too. Okay, so those are all kind of like some of the examples that I want to share with you from art history, and then here are some of the examples that I've had students produce over the years for this assignment. So this student was mused by this is a pair of jeans that they wore throughout the semester, a couple semesters of painting, and then deconstructed them, stretched them onto canvas as a sort of a flat two-dimensional object, and then repainted on top of those. He literally took my syllabus and copied it onto the pants. You can see right there's an ink transfer of the syllabus there. This student, I think, was inspired a little bit by Chris O'Feely against the wall. It's a literal door, and then the images down the center of the door that's been painted on there are all the various symbols of various religions around the world. Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Hindu, and pagan religions as well. And then he took and painted in red it might just look like a graphic here, but it's the letter lowercase I, not the uppercase I, but the lowercase I. So I, thinking about the self and the I guess the selfishness that is most religions. This is all paint and transfer of ink onto canvas. That was then kind of wrapped around a dowel rod and then hung kind of like a quilt was hung. So it's very much a comment on the culture, the political culture at the time, and talking about the Iraq War. This was a multi-canvas piece, and the muse here was the clouds. This piece of with on the left is a intact skateboard, and on the right is one that's been completely abused and demolished. This large painting on parachute cloth. And the muse here is it's kind of a self-portrait of contemporary issues. So we're talking about their own observations and things that they have all around them. Collage, spray paint, oil paint, all on parachute cloth. So the muse here was, I guess, fertilization, and this one was, again, another sort of political during the Bush era. This one's about students. These are their own X-rays that they used in the actual painting. They were kind of like almost stretched like those Polk paintings. It's a form of vellum, and then it was backlit with some Christmas lights. But this was about their own body and about problems that they were experiencing with scoliosis, and so the muse here was actually was pain and difficulty. And this one was about the various ills or issues of contemporary culture. It's backlit with Christmas lights, so sex, drugs, rock and roll. So this one was about it was a conceptual piece about reproductive rights and about kind of the way in which we think and feel about said rights in women's bodies. The muse on this one was the brain. The student was a pre-med student taking the class, and wanted to do something that kind of worked on illustrating not the scale, but some of the inner workings of the human body. This one was about kind of how it was kind of political and very much a comment on our culture and on our society, and how religion and sort of male dominance have kind of manipulated all of our thinking from the mythologies that we tell ourselves to the way we even lay out our day-to-day work week with various types of holidays and celebrations that are very much on the, let's say, masculine and white side of things. This student did a kind of portrait of all the various individuals in the classroom, and in the class, the painting class at the time, and they were sort of like silhouetted images with portraits painted on top of them, and some of them were, I think, really obvious and gettable. Others maybe a little bit more, not so much. Like if you didn't know, this is her self-portrait right here, that she was really into wrestling. You wouldn't get why that's a funny self-portrait to do. If you didn't know that this kid was really into a certain type of television and had a certain attitude, you didn't get that as well. Self-portrait. Self-portrait, but using their silhouette. This one talking about reproductive rights. Again, this kind of used there. Using with a particular figure or form. In this case, the human form is the general muse here. Some mythological creatures that are using this one. A portrait of someone else also could be a muse as well. Someone that you find to be an object of maybe not desire, but could be desire, could be just an object of interest or an object of respect, or that you're drawn to them for a particular reason. That's the old school kind of idea of the muse. It's just a painting of a water fountain, right? But the muse here was the act of impasto painting, and the act of painting something just completely and utterly benign, but in a very beautiful way. Similar kind of aesthetic going on here, but the muse in this case is her being amused or mused by the glazed donut. Death does loom large sometimes as a muse. The Four Seasons being a muse here. This was a certain struggle that the student was having with mental issues, and that was not exactly a muse, but something that was a struggle for them. And this one was an eating disorder. Okay, so those are all the examples I have for you guys in terms of other student work that's happened over the years. So hopefully you've gotten plenty of information from this little lecture, and you have some ideas that you can start to work on. And that's your goal over the next week, is to really get this ball rolling and thinking about what you want to do for your very last project.